Hello viewers, Fanatec have just sent me their latest flagship racing wheel. This is the Gran Turismo DD Extreme. So this combines the new Club Sport DD Plus wheelbase with a new specifically designed for Gran Turismo wheel rim. Let's take a closer look. Okay, so here is the box, the GT DD Extreme, there we are. Let's take a look inside. Alright, got the wheel, the wheelbase, instructions, and a couple of boxes. Yeah, inside those you get the power cable basically and the power brick. And for reference of the size of the power brick, there's a PlayStation controller next to it. I mean, it's your standard big bricky thing that you always get. And then we have the centerpiece, the wheel rim itself, very premium feeling, very premium looking. We have the QR2 quick release adapter on the back with some very nice magnetic shifters and clutch paddles on both sides. A nice leather material wrapping around the wheel rim here. So a very premium feel with this very nice screen, which is a big upgrade compared to the DD Pro. Here is the wheelbase itself with, again, the QR2 adapter there. Power button bottom right. So looking very similar to the DD Pro, just a bit bigger. There are the adapters on the back with the Type-C adapter going into your PlayStation or PC, and the power adapters at the bottom. This is a closer look at the power button and just the front. Let's take a look at the weight, coming in just under 10 kilograms, so fairly heavy. And a size comparison to the outgoing or previous gen DD Pro, as you can see, slightly longer, has a very similar aesthetic compared to the DD1. As you can see, very similar in terms of height and width, but just the length or the depth a little bit different, but the aesthetic very similar to the DD Pro, I would say. And then it was a case of removing the aforementioned DD Pro from the rig using these newly provided T-slots, which actually work very well. And there it is, the new DD Extreme, looking very good indeed on the rig. Okay, so that is the wheel now fully installed onto the rig. For reference, this Gran Turismo DD Extreme does not include pedals, so that would have to be bought separately. For reference, I'm using the V3 pedals. All of the equipment I'm using here is linked in the description, so go and take a look. In terms of the price, now I'm not sure how to break this to you, but it's 1,300 euros or dollars. Obviously, that's a lot of money to drop on a wheel. What I would say though is that this is sort of top of the line in terms of console gaming. This is about as good as it can possibly get. Of course, this is compatible on PC. Is it the best PC wheel out there? I doubt it. There's better options out there for PC. I really want to go into more depth about the wheel and the features of it later on in this video, but for now, let's jump into a race on GT7. So just as we jump into this race, as a quick note, these four buttons here, these two on the right, you can change the brake balance with by pressing up and down, as you can see. This top left button changes fuel map, and then this bottom right one does traction control. So it's really good to have that functionality on those buttons within this game, so you don't have to flick through the MFD to get to each of those. Then if you go to the options menu, you can then go to the other buttons at the bottom left, and that lets you map the click of each button. So each button has up, down, left, right, and then a click. So Gran Turismo clearly has quite a lot of different things that you need to map, and so this gives you quite a lot of buttons that you can map. So for all the other MFD options like radar and weather radar, you're still going to have to use the directional button to flick through them. So not all of them have functionality per se, but it's not too much of an issue. But let's start this race and see where we can get from 15th on the grid. And for this race, I thought I'd add a camera to the right-hand side so you can see a front view of the wheel, exactly what's going on. And the first thing you'll notice really on the screen is the data that is available, which is gear shift, or the gear that I'm in, and the speed, that's in miles per hour. Then of course you have the rev gauge just underneath that. That is modifiable on Fanalabs software if you plug the wheel into the PC. However, I think with Gran Turismo at the moment there's not full integration, so we have to go with whatever they give us for now. But the wheel looking really good. I think it cuts a nice form as we avoid a Porsche who's spinning out there. And I think the biggest compliment I can give it, as I try to avoid all the traffic here on this first lap, is just the precision of it and just how smooth it feels. It feels just really effortless. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have any strength or it doesn't have any resistance. It just means that it just feels really easy to drive and it just feels really smooth. There's no notchiness. This is something you can certainly say about older wheels or wheels from the past, is that you turn around a corner and you can really feel the sort of the motor inside the wheel sort of turning and fighting against you. But this, you don't really get that sense of how the strength in the wheel is created. It just feels like you're steering a car. There's no better way to put it. Anyway, putting a nice little switcheroo on this Porsche, up the inside we go. Nice and controlled. And that's the thing I would say about this. It really just gave me a lot of control. I just felt really in control. Precision was good. Smoothness. I mean, I'm saying these words over and over again because that's just the feeling I'm getting from using it. And I think that really comes down to what they're calling full force. Force feedback is their new term for it. How they've improved it. I mean, I'm not going to go into the technical details of exactly what they've done. And to be honest, I don't really care what they've done. All I care about is the end result, which is it feels good to drive. Anyway, this race got through much of the traffic and I felt like my pace was actually really solid. I mean, apart from this bit when I got a penalty, I was catching up with the top 4 here. Wasn't quite able to do it. Pace was really good, and the biggest compliment I think I can give is just the smoothness and the consistency that I was able to generate from the wheel during this race. So a really, really good first race there. Coming home eventually to finish in 5th. A couple of penalties in there, but I think that's the fastest I've done that race. I think if I started a bit closer to the front, I could have definitely been in with a shout of winning. But so after that, I decided let's jump into a qualifying session and see what we can do. On my first profile, the Super GT profile, I've set a 1:54.6 for this qualifying session. And this was about to eclipse that pretty much on my first lap, which kind of gives you an indication of how good this wheel is. And really, I suppose on a qualifying lap, what you need is the ability to feel where the limit is in terms of the grip of the car. And that's something I was getting. I felt like, okay, I know where the limit of the car is. You can see there the back end of the car kicks round, and it was really easy and sort of effortless to kind of correct that and stop the car developing into a worse slide. So any oversteer moments, you can correct them quite quickly. It feels really precise, as in the force feedback, the feeling of it, you get it very quickly and it feels very easy to act upon it. And then when you act upon it, it sort of just corrects it very, very effortlessly. So for this second race, as you can see, starting from pole position, courtesy of that decent qualifying lap. And from here, it's really a case of just trying to drive with tyre management in mind. And this Daily Race C this week is a good example because it's a 10-lap race around Nürburgring, and it does require a certain measure of tyre management. And therefore, all the words I've been using up to this point a million times, smoothness, precision, etc., all of those factors are going to help on this kind of race to preserve your tyres. Now, this is really down to sort of the detail, I would say, of the force feedback. It's so quick at delivering the message of what's going on with the car that I felt that at pretty much all moments I'm in control. You see there just little bits of sliding on the exit of the chicane, but nothing too crazy. It just felt really calm, cool, and just certain. I felt like I knew what the car was doing at all times. So setting some nice qualifying laps here. Bearing in mind that for this race on my previous wheel on the DD Pro, I was doing sort of 19 minutes and 45 seconds for the entire race. This was about to shatter that, primarily because of the consistency overall throughout the entire race. Going over the chicane there, feeling nice and comfortable. I was pushing here for the fastest lap at the end of the race, and I was just to push a little bit too hard here on the final lap. Managed to correct it and control it, but lose maybe a tenth. Ultimately coming across the line in 19 minutes and 35 seconds. Whew, there we go. That's the win. And that is easily the fastest I've done that race by quite a long way. Mainly because of the pace was good, but just the consistency, the smoothness was there. So the tyres stayed pretty good. So very happy with that. Okay, with that race done, we're going to jump into another one quickly here. I wanted to go over some details about the screen because as you can see, we have the speedometer on there. And the implementation of that screen within Gran Turismo 7 is actually quite basic as it stands right now. You only really get the speedometer and the gear counter. And so that hopefully will improve with time. Excusing the back of my head, I wanted to show you how quick and easy it is to use the QR2 adapter to change the wheel rim to a different one. And once I've worked out what button's which, we can jump back into the race. So as you can see, pretty easy to do that. We can do it again. In fact, jumping over this time to the McLaren GT3, which is probably my go-to wheel rim here on PlayStation. So it really is that simple. I mean, you could probably do it during a race if you were that crazy enough. Anyway, here is a size comparison. 300 millimeters across for the GT Extreme. That's the BMW rim. That's the McLaren, slightly smaller. And then this is the DD Pro, which is definitely a lot smaller. And you can see a direct comparison between the two here. There's no question that the Extreme is a step up, as the name probably suggests. Anyway, another feature is that of being able to use it on Xbox. If you were crazy enough to jump onto Forza Motorsport, you can do this. As long as you have an Xbox certified rim, as the McLaren one is, then you can play on Forza on Xbox. And of course, this is compatible out of the box on PC. So I jumped on here, just did some initial tuning on the Fanatec software. You can even change the colours of the dials on Fanalab, which is really, really heartwarming and lovely. As you can see here, playing a bit of iRacing, this is where you really get full integration of that screen. So you can see a lot more information going on there with some different pages available. There's like 5 or 6 different pages available that they give you. And that is fully customizable, the colours as well, the rev gauge as well. So this is where this wheel really comes alive actually on PC. Hopefully with time, I have been told anyway that this is something that will be improved upon with Gran Turismo, but we shall see. But on iRacing, this wheel is excellent. Okay, right, after all of that, I've written up a nice little Word document of what I think is good and bad about this wheel. Okay, so good. Much improved over the DD Pro, the previous generation of wheel. The look of it, the feel of it, definitely more premium now. The materials used and just the aesthetic of it. So definitely a step up. Very detailed force feedback. Really gave me the feeling of a lot of precision when racing. The way that it steers, it feels very seamless. It doesn't really feel like there's any notchiness. It feels very smooth, very relaxed, and very precise. The wheel rim feels premium, so just like the shifters, the clutch paddles, the buttons, the material of the wheel, everything about it, the screen as well, the way that the display lights up. All of that makes it impressive to look at and to own, to be honest. So a good range of buttons, especially on PlayStation. It's designed for Gran Turismo, it's designed for PlayStation, so that obviously helps. And this will give you lots of flexibility with button mapping, although it's not perfect just yet. It's Xbox compatible, so if you want to play on Xbox, as long as you buy an Xbox certified wheel rim, then it will work on Xbox as well. So that will cover all bases, PC, PlayStation and Xbox. The display is excellent, so this is something that the DD Pro didn't have, the screen. Now on Gran Turismo, it is a little bit basic in terms of what you can get on the screen, but I'll touch on that in a moment. But certainly on iRacing and ACC and on PC sims, the settings on that were very, very good. As good as it gets on PlayStation, I don't think you can get a better wheel on PlayStation than this. QR2, so the quick release system to change the wheel to another one or change the rim. You can see just how quick it was. You could do it within seconds, so very impressive. And then let's scroll down to the bad bits. Firstly, no pedal bundles. So this bundle only comes with the wheel rim and the wheel base, and therefore you're going to have to fork out more money on top of the original price to get some pedals. And then the next point, the price. It's expensive. $1,300 or euros, pounds, I'm not sure, but there's no question that's a lot of money to be dropping on a wheel. Whether or not it's worth that money is really hard to say. It really depends on your personal situation. I do think it is as good as it gets, as I just said. The DD Pro was well under 1,000, and this is like $300, euros over 1,000. So there is a bit of a jump. GT7 doesn't have complete integration just yet, and the brackets I put there is ITM not available. ITM is the intelligent telemetry system that comes up on the screen. On Gran Turismo, I was not able to use that. I was only able to do it on iRacing and ACC, whereas on GT7, I only had the basic speedometer and gear shifter. And another thing about GT7 was that the torque vectoring, so in rally cars you get the torque vectoring, the yellow thing that you can change up and down, that wasn't available on one of these sticks, whereas brake bias, traction control and fuel, they were, but for some reason torque vectoring wasn't. And also I found it tricky to change sort of the colours of the buttons and then transfer that over to PlayStation. So when I was playing iRacing, it was fine to change all the button colours and stuff, but then I plug it back into the PlayStation and all the colours of the buttons would revert back to the standard light blue. Wheel rim possibly too large, 300mm in diameter, and that does represent quite a sizable thing. I mean, for me, it does block my view of the bottom of my TV. Obviously, it's all adjustable. I could change that and move it. But it's just personal preference as to whether or not you like a wheel of this size. It is pretty big. Then last one is quite a big one here, uncertainty over shipping. I suppose it's time to really have a quick discussion about this because Fanatec, of course, their name's been dragged through the mud recently in terms of fulfilling orders and not having the best communication with customers who have ordered things on Black Friday and, well, in the subsequent months of Black Friday as well. As far as I know, there's some issues with warehouse and their orders. I don't know the absolute ins and outs. And there have been people who have ordered back in, I don't know, November who haven't got their order and they don't know what's going on with it. So in reviewing this wheel, and I suppose the company as a whole, I would say that there's no question in my mind that this product is as good as it gets for PlayStation anyway. And obviously Fanatec have had issues. There's no question that they're going through a bit of a tough patch right now. I back them to try and sort it out. Hopefully there's a bit more communication with respect to what they're doing and how they're doing it and when people's orders are going to be shipped. But in terms of this wheel, it's available now. They say they're shipping it in 4 to 7 days. But overall, in terms of my perspective of mostly playing Gran Turismo and my personal experience with Fanatec is that normally my orders get there on time. I've seen really mixed reviews, like lots of people getting their stuff on time and then obviously others aren't. But my general verdict about this wheel is that I love it. It's a really good wheel, as it should be for the price point that it comes in at. As ever, all the equipment is linked in the description if you want to see exactly what I'm using. If you have any more questions, then please do ask in the comments. I'll put some more details down there as well. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.